Want to turn your immune system into a raging fire of misery? Today I'm going to share with you the 5 worst foods that you can eat if you have an autoimmune disease.
You're watching the Dr. Jake podcast.
I'm Dr. Jake Schmutz. I'm a naturopathic medical doctor and integrative physician in Salt Lake City, Utah. On this channel, I'll share with you how I can heal your body down to the root causes without any harmful drugs or surgery. Okay, let's jump on. These foods are huge no-nos. Number 1 worst food for those that have autoimmune conditions is wheat. Sorry, everyone. I know you love your wheat. I know you love your bread. You love your pasta. You love your donuts. I used to love all these things too. Probably love them still a little bit. But they are going to make our autoimmune condition worse if you do have an autoimmune condition, and likely could lead to autoimmune condition in the future because it is a very inflammatory food. And there are a lot of people that are allergic or sensitive to this food. Just because you don't have celiac disease doesn't mean you don't have a sensitivity to it. And you have the same symptoms as someone that has celiac disease. You're just not showing up on the blood tests or getting the scope that shows that you have celiac disease, but you're still having a lot of issues that are going along with that. So big things with wheat is it's inflammatory by nature. It's been changed a lot throughout our lifetime, and especially since the 90s, it has been changed a ton. We used to have long stalks of wheat that were really tall, and now we have dwarf wheat that has higher gluten content. And probably one of the biggest changes that has happened is that we spray it with tons of glyphosate. Farmers want it to dry all together because it's easier to do that. You could dry it and then you just chop it all up and then you put it into the sell it. It's easier that way, but it's very harmful for our health. Glyphosate is Roundup. Many of you would be like, I would never put Roundup in my mouth. I wouldn't spray Roundup on my veggies or on my wheat right before I eat it. But guess what? That's what they're doing right before they chop it up and then they put it into powder. Guess what? That glyphosate doesn't leave. It's still there. And then we're eating it. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why so many people are having wheat issues or having inflammatory autoimmune conditions because of wheat, is because we're actually making wheat into a poison because we're putting tons of glyphosate on it. So bare minimum, you need to eat it organic. But even if you eat organic and you've already eaten non-organic wheat, you already have that reaction. Your immune system's not used to seeing that wheat. It's going to be stimulated when it gets in response to that wheat, and you're going to have an immunological response, which then can lead to autoimmune conditions, which is your immune system cross-reacting with proteins throughout your entire body, which you could get rheumatoid arthritis, attacks the joints. You could get multiple sclerosis, attacks your myelin sheaths, or whatever. Number 2 worst food for autoimmune conditions is dairy. I know you're going to hate me for this one too. I'm talking about some of the foods that you're probably eating the most of, you've been eating your entire life. But dairy has a ton of these saturated fats in there that are very pro-inflammatory. Also, the proteins have been changed because what we're doing to our milk is changing it too. So let's say homogenization, pasteurization. I'm sure majority of you are drinking milk that has this done to it. That changes the protein. When you change the protein, the body sees it and it's like, wait, I haven't seen that before. And your immune system gets stimulated in response to that, seeing it as a foreign invader. The more our immune system's overstimulated, the more potential that it's going to start seeing certain proteins in our body that are foreign to, at least they think so, and they start attacking our thyroid, for example, and give us Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So dairy is horrible because it's inflammatory, because of the fatty acids in there. Also, all the growth hormones that they're putting in there, even if you're not getting growth hormones, still pro-inflammatory, the saturated fats, etc. So if you do have an autoimmune condition, you should greatly limit your dairy, maybe take it out of your diet completely. And also, if you have a history of it, or if you just feel inflamed at all, you should probably take dairy out and you probably feel a lot better. Now, with Teresa saying the elimination challenge, that's great. I think that's a really good thing to do. But if you only take out one food that you're reacting to, you might not notice anything at all because you might be reacting to all kinds of other foods. Maybe you're reacting to wheat or dairy. Maybe you have food sensitivities, and we're not diving into that, but maybe you're even reacting to some healthy foods like strawberries or grapes or spinach or whatever. You might feel a little bit better taking away the wheat or other foods, but you're not going to feel totally there. And you're like, I don't know if I noticed a lot, because you probably are having a lot of other food reactions. So elimination challenge isn't perfect in that regard. You might just have a lot of other foods going on, but still a good idea to see if it does work for you. 3rd worst food for autoimmune conditions is corn. So corn is another food that we're eating a ton of. It is in so many different foods. We add high fructose corn syrup. We add cornstarch to so many different foods. A ton of packaged foods have a ton of corn. So maybe you're getting an idea is when our guts get damaged, we start reacting to the foods that we eat the most of. So a lot of these foods, you're like, I eat a ton of these. Yeah. And a lot of people these are the worst for them because they're damaging their gut. But also they're just inflammatory themselves. But then you could have the inflammatory nature of these foods, but then you start actually having an allergic reaction to these foods. Bam, boom, that's like a huge bomb on you because you're getting both inflammatory sides, and it's just horrible. So corn's horrible because of the sugars that are in there, very inflammatory, plus of how they modify the corn nowadays and how it's all GMO based now. And so yeah, it's just a foreign molecule that our body is seeing as having an immunological response to it, leading to various autoimmune conditions. And if you have an autoimmune condition, you got to take it out because it's just going to keep on inflaming you. If you ever want to get off of your immunosuppressing medications, you got to get off these foods that we're talking about. Fourth worst food for autoimmune condition is refined sugar. So that white stuff that you have in the cupboard, sorry, that's very pro-inflammatory. So the more sugar you put in your body, the more inflammation there will be. But the more refined it is, the worse it is going to be. So when I say refined sugar, it is not just that white stuff in the cupboard. I'm saying anything that is refined from its original form. That is talking about white rice. That is talking about white bread. That is talking about even other forms of sugar like refined coconut sugar, even though it's not as bad. If I had to pick and choose, I do like coconut sugar more than the cane sugar, but still is going to be somewhat inflammatory to the body. But refined cane sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup, even agave syrup, these are all going to really inflame the body. That's what they do in the body. The spike of your blood sugar causes inflammation, but also just these specific sugars will stimulate inflammatory cytokines inside your body and just inflame everything up. So we got to limit not the treats, but also it's not just in treats. It's in sauces. It's in the pastas you're eating. It's in even the gluten-free breads or whatever. All these things that you think that you're eating well, you need to look at the sugar content because gluten-free tends to be even higher sugar than non-gluten-free. So that's the one unfortunate thing you got to pay attention to. Yeah, the fifth worst food that I want to talk about today is processed meats. The funny thing about this is the worst thing you probably could eat is a bologna sandwich with white bread, right? A lot of these things we're talking about, that's going to be an autoimmune bomb. So we want to not eat the processed meats. That's the salami, that's the bologna. That's majority of sandwich meats are very processed. These foods are very pro-inflammatory. For one, they have a lot of chemicals in them to make them the way they are. And number two, they have a lot of fatty acids, typically really high in poor quality saturated fats that are going to be very pro-inflammatory. And it's just going to be like pouring gasoline onto your autoimmune condition and really flare it up when you continue to eat these processed meats. If you want to learn more about the root causes of autoimmune conditions, click my video to the right. I'm Dr. Jake, and I'll see you there.